Saints and Bears coming up this Sunday. Alvin Kamara's status seems to be the talking point right now around New Orleans media and Saints followers. Peyton was speaking a little bit about it yesterday, but more impressive was the stance on Sue Underhill, who backed up the claim by Nick Underhill, who yesterday said he is not doing any radio interviews unless you support New Orleans.football. That's why he is here every Tuesday, because Off the Bench knows where the real information comes from concerning the New Orleans Saints, and it's only the site at neworleans.football from our guy, Nick Underhill, who joins us every Tuesday at 8:30, compliments of former LSU Tiger and current attorney Chris Perrette. Nick, our best to Sue. Happy New Year to both of you. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. That was probably a little aggressive, but I mean, look, if you aren't reading my stuff, like you're already telling me you don't value my work, and you just want me to come on and fill time, so you don't have to fill the time by talking and doing your own job. So
yeah,
we ride with the people that ride with us.
Hell yeah, that is a man that's been on a lot of bad radio shows right there. Speaking,
Sue's a writer too. I've seen her. She's been a real one from Nick for a long time now.
Nick, the status of Alvin Kamara seems to be dominating the news. He will be outside of the window of the COVID protocol as far as the quarantine goes, but he will not be able to practice with the Saints leading up to the game. How do you see his impact playing on Sunday?
I would be guessing here, but I would guess that he does end up playing in this game. He's always been one of Sean's favorite players. He's a Sean guy. Sean, lets him call plays during games. So I do think that matters coming from that place. We've seen in the past where guys have upset Sean Payton, and Sean will say, you know what, I'm going to win without you. We saw the whole 2017 season play out like that with Willie Snead, but I don't think Alvin's in that category. I think there's probably, a sense that what happened here wasn't great. They wiped out the running back room. It's a wake-up call that they're going to need to tighten down significantly on these, on the COVID protocols. Before the season, Sean said, some team could come out of nowhere and end up winning the Super Bowl just because they managed the virus better than everybody else. And you see the flip side of it here. It's a little bit of a threat. I think they'll be able to get through it fine. With or without Alvin, I think they'd find a way to beat the Bears, but having him is obviously better. Some of the coverages they play, it lends itself to those halfback passes, against cover 4, cover 6. Those are ways that the Saints like to attack it. So having Alvin, this could be a game where it sets up big for him, but he'll spend the week going through the install, the meetings on Zoom. And then, if he remains asymptomatic, as of yesterday, I keep checking up on it. He was still doing well. I was told he didn't have any symptoms. So it seems like he'll end up within that 10-day window, be eligible to play. And I do expect them to play him. I think there's too much at stake here. It's Breeze's last season. If there's a way for him to play, he's going to play. Peyton always talks about how he's the smartest guy on the team, one of the smartest players he's ever been around. So I don't think being away and not being on the field to walk through this stuff is going to be a huge issue for him.
Well, and so that's what I was going to ask, too, is like from a physical standpoint, because, going to Zoom meetings is kind of par for the course this year, so that's really not that much of a change. Do you think he misses anything by not being out there on the practice field, really, or that, not at this point?
I think it'll be okay. It's just a week. I think him and Breeze probably have good enough chemistry that they aren't going to lose anything not being out there for a week. If they do something crazy, there's some specific play that's installed and they don't get to go through it, you can always put Ty Montgomery in there or somebody else in place of Alvin on those couple of specialty plays. If for some reason you don't feel comfortable with him doing something brand new that he's never walked through, there's enough versatility and talent on this team that I think it'll be okay. But overall, from a broad perspective, they kind of do the things they do. They'll dress it up how they dress it up. I think he'll probably be fine on 95% of the stuff they do. But, this is a staff that goes through and studies the whole league. And you watch these games and they'll run a play that, where did that come from? And you start looking at all the touchdowns scored against, the Bears, and you'll see something that happened in week 2 that they take and put in. So maybe on something like that, you have a little bit of an issue. But the one thing they do really well with those plays that they take is they find a way to fit it within the fabric of what they're doing. So it's never always completely foreign. It's just maybe a couple guys doing a couple things a little bit differently out of a look that they already have. So if there's a couple new things for Alvin to learn, I really don't think it's going to be an issue. I think they'll be fine. we see how smart he is. Sean talks about it. All that stuff. It's going to be mental, and I don't think the mental battle is a battle at all for him.
Susan, let's talk about some of the other potential returns. So on Mike Thomas, you expect him to be back, or do you expect him to be back? And then was this most recent IR stint, was he actually hurt, or was it more about just trying to get him 100% healthy for this push?
All right, well, I'm going to write this story this week, so if somebody's listening and they hear this, just sign up for the site because I'm going to tell you the story now. I'm giving away.
I mean, really, if you're listening and not signed up for the site, what the hell are you doing, man? Get to NewOrleans.football.
So before the Philadelphia game, he told the rest of the team that it was going to be the game that he shuts it down. He was hurting. He was going to try to help him get through it. But basically, he told him, like, look, I'm not 100%. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to give it all in this game. Try to keep number one alive, but I got to shut it down and get better. And, so he played that game. They lost it. And then, he shut it down to get healthy. Early in the season, he did not want to go on IR. He wanted to rehab that ankle, get back before the 3-game window. And, he tried to do everything he could. He ended up practicing. He gets in a fight with CD Deuce. His ankle was hurting then. Some of the frustration from that, I think, spilled over into the punch at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So then he's out again on that suspension, tries to come back. And if you watch and you really look at the way he's hitting his brakes, especially on hitches and curls, the way he was cutting back against Denver and some of those other games, you can see that it was like rounded. And I think the thing that makes Mike special is the violence in his movements. And I don't really know how else to describe that, but there's just this like really hard snap when he hits those things. And that's how the guy at 4.54 speed creates, a 1.5 yards, 2 yards of separation on plays is by the way he hits his brakes. And you saw that it just wasn't right. And he was still succeeding, but it just didn't look like a healthy player. So, visually you saw the effect on him. So he's out. I think he's probably going to be back this week. That was the plan for him to miss the 3 games and then come back and play. So, yeah, I think he's going to be out there, and I think they need him. It's really weird to be this point in the season where it's like they're going to debut their offense finally after 3 months of not playing together. But that's where they're at, and we're finally going to see what the Saints can do on offense, I think, if everybody's out there, assuming Alvin plays, Mike plays. It's a good time to get going. I think they'll be okay bringing him back now. Mike's so rigid and mechanical in everything he does. I don't think there's a lot of getting back on the same page. I think him and Brees should be able to pick that up fairly quickly. That is a challenge, but I don't think it's as hard as, somebody like Emmanuel Sanders and Brees getting on the same page. Mike is so consistent that I just think it's, they can probably spend the week sometime after practices, get locked back in and be good to go.
And so obviously Kamara, Mike headlining who will return, but then there's another name offensively that I think was really coming on, and obviously his special teams value speaks for itself. That's Deontay Harris. What is his status?
It's a little bit of a mystery. He tweeted something this week that, made it seem like he's going to be back and playing. I don't know for sure. It's been hard to get information on him all along. He had a stinger and then he was gone. And I don't know. I'm surprised that injury landed him on injured reserve. Trey Hendrickson had one, missed the game and came back. Maybe there's different levels to it. I don't know. But, I do think that there was a sense, a few weeks ago that it was get healthy, get ready for the playoffs. If you get the number 1 seed, fine. But I really don't, I got the sense that they weren't too worried about seeding. I got the sense that they weren't too worried about going on the road. A couple of weeks ago, I don't know if this held up to the end of the season, road teams had a better record than home teams. So I don't think they were too worried about, going to Green Bay or anywhere else. I think they prioritized health over that. Obviously, you don't want to go to Green Bay in January, but you would probably rather play Green Bay with a healthy team than in a cold atmosphere. So they prioritized that over, the seeding and kind of just dialed back and took it easy with everybody. Maybe that's where he fell into that picture, but yeah, I'm not sure. It's been kind of tight lips on him all season or
Nick,
the last few weeks.
Nick Underhill joining us here. NewOrleans.football is the site. The conversation each week on Off the Bench is compliments of former LSU Tiger and current attorney Chris Perrette. Nick, the Week 8 matchup between the Bears and the Saints, it seemed like Matt Nagy was a dead man walking during that game. Now it seems like the Bears are a totally different team. What do you make of the Chicago squad that's in the Dome on Sunday?
Yeah, they've had quite a turnaround. I mean, that was the second loss in I think a 6-game losing streak, and then they ended up turning back to Trubisky, and they figured out that they can run the ball pretty well. David Montgomery's kind of been the backbone of that, a bunch of 100-yard games, and then playing off that is just a lot of play action, and they've done a good job of using Trubisky's legs to extend some plays, and they've just kind of found their identity a little bit. They are playing a lot better. I do think the Saints match up well against them. I don't, it should be a winnable game. Vegas set the spread at 9.5 for a reason. They still got to go out and execute and everything. But, I think just in every area you look at it, and I think the Saints match up better on paper than they would probably with any other team that they could play in the first round. And, as well as the Bears have been playing, I thought last week they got exposed a little bit. They do a lot of good things in the secondary. They mix up their coverages. I don't think that kind of stuff is going to affect someone like Breeze, but, during their little winning streak, some less experienced quarterbacks, you can throw 6-7 coverages out there in a game and it becomes a little bit confusing. But when it's Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees, you kind of see through the smoke and mirrors and it's not as effective. So it's going to come down to their talent. They do have some good players. Akeem Hicks is going to be healthy this time. They do some interesting stuff with their defensive front. And, they got Mack and Robert Quinn and some other guys up front that have played well all season. But, at some point it's going to come down to talent versus talent. And I just think the Saints have a whole lot more of it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it next hour, but we're in line there. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question that is kind of Saints-based, but also kind of LSU-based, and that's kind of what you know about Saints defensive line coach Ryan Nielsen. It's a name that with LSU defensive coordinator spot, he has definitely shown up in conversation. What do you know about him, and do you think he could be a good fit in a coordinator position on that level?
So, yeah, I mean, look, I think it's hard to tell a lot of times if a position coach is actually good at his job. I think it's, do they have good players or not? And the guys that have good players usually get regaled as being great. And the guys who don't end up, on the wrong side of those conversations. I think with him, though, and I tweeted this the other day, actually, so I'm not just blowing smoke here. I think he's one of the guys that you can actually tell is good at his job. The players that they bring in, later round guys, honor all the guys. You see them get better. You see them gain skills and succeed in ways they weren't succeeding a year before, a month before. The talent gets better and they continue to improve. And I'm not sure you always see that. Like I said, I mean, I think it's just they drafted well and this guy's a great coach because he has great players. Sure, but, is Carl Granderson getting better? Is David Onyemata getting better? This really raw guy, you developed him into one of the better interior players in the NFC. So I don't think that's a question at all. And the way he carries himself, he's one of those guys. And, we know what football guys seem like. He's a football guy, not in the Joe Judge sense where you roll your eyes at it, but he's a good football guy. He can command the room and talk to macho guys and get them to buy in. He just has a really great presence about himself. But he's also a patient person, and just as a media guy, you can tell who the good teachers are because when you come to them with these questions and hey, I want to learn about this, some of them have a good way of explaining those things. And, it's different than a player, but teaching is teaching. And I think he has those qualities in the patience and the desire to, see someone's eyes light up when they finally, something clicks in and they understand it. So I do think he would be good in that role if he came from a college atmosphere, and he just seems like a good coach.
A great example of the insight and expertise that you can get from New Orleans Football as Nick Underhill lays out Ryan Nielsen and the characteristics of his coaching style, and would he make a good candidate for an LSU defensive coordinator that has an opening right now? His name seems to be kicked around a lot. Nick, thank you as always for your time. Enjoy Sunday. We'll talk next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Always.
Exactly.
New Orleans Football.
Did Granderson end up with 5 sacks on the year?
He's had a hell of a year. If it's not 5, he makes impacts every Sunday.
Yeah, it's kind of underneath the radar, and then obviously we know about the rise of Onyemata. Still kind of waiting on Rankins to try to get healthy again, and then obviously Trey Hendrickson, second in the NFL in sacks, tied with Aaron Donald. That's right, Danny. That's right, Danny. Point to the sky. Man, we'll talk a lot more Saints Bears next hour.
Your mailbag questions next.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, go ahead and like and subscribe below. You want more great Saints content? We got it all here on Off the Bench Overtime. Check out these other videos, share with your friends, and let's grow the Who Dat Nation together. Who Dat?